The views and opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Acuma, its board of directors, its management staff, or its members. The podcast discussion presented is conversational in nature and for general information only.
Hello, welcome to Acuma's On Point Podcast, a series focused on sharing the stories of people who are making a positive impact in the credit union mortgage industry. I'm your host, Peter Benjamin. Today's episode is being brought to you by LoanCare. LoanCare understands the critical role member satisfaction plays in building long-lasting relationships. Their digital-first approach ensures a seamless, user-friendly mortgage servicing experience that's designed for mobile convenience, so your members have access to all their important information anywhere, anytime. And by leveraging sophisticated analytics and account-based marketing, LoanCare empowers you to deliver tailored financial guidance and relevant product offers to your members throughout the life of their loan. Whether navigating interim financing, servicing home equity products, reducing operational costs, or generating new revenue, LoanCare's award-winning digital tools support effortless portfolio management across diverse mortgage types, investors, and members. Choose LoanCare as your mortgage servicer or strategic partner and committed to combining personalized convenience, advanced technology, and member loyalty to propel your business success. Welcome back to the third episode of our MI miniseries. As a quick reminder of our Summer MI miniseries, each episode will feature an intimate conversation with people who I consider to be champions of the credit union movement with the goal of obtaining their open and honest perspective on how we can move the credit union movement forward. Our next guest in the MI miniseries is Peter Hurst, Senior Vice President, Regional Accounts with Enact Mortgage Insurance. Peter, welcome, and how are you doing today?
Hey, Peter. Great to have two Peters. Make it real confusing for the listeners out there today, but I'm doing fantastic. Thanks very much for having me. It's great to be here.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, I've been looking forward to this conversation. Excited to have you here. One, because obviously I've had an opportunity to get to know you, as my time as president of Acuma. One, but also not just as my time as president of Acuma, but also since becoming a fellow CMB. So excited to have you here. Thank you very much for carving time out of your busy schedule to sit down with us. Of course, got a few questions I'm going to sit down and discuss with you. But before we do that, got to pull Justin in. Justin, do me a favor. What's the latest and greatest happening over at Acuma? And of course, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Peter. How are you?
Living the dream, man. Just living the dream.
I love it. I love that response every time. All right. So over here at Acuma, we have a lot going on. We're in the middle of our pre-planning for annual, I guess. It's been going on all season, right? But
about a month and a half now, right?
Yeah, we're just
counting right?
A month, like 7 weeks.
7 weeks.
7 weeks, something like that. So it's super exciting. I know the Acuma team's really excited to see all the hard work that we've been putting into it come to life in Vegas. So if you haven't registered, there's still plenty of time. Head over to the Acuma website, register. You do not want to miss this event.
Absolutely not.
And then if you can't make it out, or if you're just looking for additional content to take in, we have our virtual programming, so our fast tracks and inside tracks that happen year round. So there's always something for everyone.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, Justin, that was quick, short, sweet, to the point. I love it. You came prepared.
I have not had a lot of energy drinks, so that's not why it was quick.
Peter Hurst, that is. So sometimes Justin comes locked and loaded. He probably has 2 or 3 Monster energy drinks, and he flies through it. He must be really. You're only on your half one today.
Yep.
Okay.
Still got half to go.
All right. So we'll by the time we get to our final segment, we'll probably finish it, and he'll be flying through that segment. So.
All right, good. I'm glad I caught him before he got, one down and, popped the second one.
That's right.
Peter's exaggerating. I only have one a day. It's just sometimes they hit differently.
That's true. That's true.
All right. So, all right, Peter.
Sure.
Again, excited to have that conversation with you. So, I think it's important to kind of start from the beginning. Again, it's the On Point podcast, and I know this is the MI mini series, and before we started the recording, I always start off by explaining the purpose of our podcast, and it's the people piece, right? And getting to know people who really make a difference in our industry. And you and I have a lot of similar people, right? People who I consider to be bright spots in the credit union industry. And you mentioned them, and Beth Eller, Ali Nazarian. These are bright spots in our industry, right? And there are people that we've highlighted in this podcast, before, and so I was excited to be able to spotlight you because they are people who have said Peter Hers, he's one of the good ones. So for those that don't know you, again, this is the Acuma's On Point podcast is about learning more about people who make a positive impact in our industry. So do me a favor, for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Peter Hers?
Yeah, well, and Peter, thank you for saying those very flattering compliments. I appreciate it. That means a lot. To hear that from you as well as some of our mutual friends. So on the business side of things, we'll start there, and then I'll pivot to sort of who I am beyond just what the name and title reads, because it's always more interesting than that stuff. So on the business side of things, I am Senior Vice President of Regional Accounts at Enact Mortgage Insurance. So what does that mean? Basically means I'm responsible for our entire field organization and inside sales organization across the country, as well as ultimately being responsible for relationships with over 1,700 active customers, which includes all of our credit union customers. So love the credit union space. And I know during the course of this conversation, we'll really unpack, what that means and why I like it so much. Might be interesting to know about how I got in the business. I think everybody's story for how they get in mortgage is always a little bit interesting because it almost seems accidental many times. So I got started in the business working in a small community bank in the mid 90s. And I was, that guy that sat at the desk and helped you open a checking or savings account or CD fresh out of college. And a guy walked across the lobby, a couple of years older than me, in a much nicer suit, about 2 hours later in the day than me. And I was like, what does that guy do? And they was a whisper. He's a market front officer. And I'm like, ooh, I want that job. So I got really interested in the world of lending and, what that means. This place I learned the business from was super old school. So they said, hey, that's great, Peter. You want to be a loan officer? You're going to learn everybody else's job before we give you a stack of 1003s, because this was before laptop days. So I didn't appreciate it at the time, but in what was essentially a informal job rotation, I worked through being a junior processor and a junior underwriter and a closer. And then I was a wholesale rep for the bank's second mortgage products. And then finally, when I, went through this sort of trial by fire, I was given my stack of 1003s and a pager and told to go hit the street. So that's how I got into the business. Times were certainly different back then, but a lot of it is remarkably the same in terms of what the nuts and bolts are and what you get done. Did that for the better part of the rest of the 90s decade. And then our first child was born and things had changed. And I, just needed something that was a little bit different, a little bit more stable from just a time and compensation perspective. So I left the primary side of the business and I started working at Fannie Mae. So I was at Fannie Mae from late 2001 all the way through 2014. So a lot of changes there. If you want to talk about GSE stuff and changes in conservatorship. In fact, my last role there was Director of Regulatory Affairs. So I got to appreciate the political process that GSE policy is and how it works with government and regulators and conservators. And that's probably another podcast special in of itself.
100%. It's
Anyway,
a good one, though. It's a good one, though.
Yeah, left Fannie in 14, and I've been here at Enact ever since. So it was Genworth. If people out there don't necessarily know the name Enact, the name may be still new to you. We spun off from our parent company, Genworth, just about 3 years ago. So we IPO'd and separated. So we've been, in the business for well over 50 years, but the name Enact still may be new to people. But seen it through all kinds of different cycles. So maybe more exciting on the personal side, as we were chatting about earlier. We are from the same neck of the woods. So I live in Howard County, Maryland, in Elkridge specifically, if you know where that is. I'm originally from the metropolis of Wilmington, Delaware. So I did not stray far, just 90 minutes down the highway to attend college at what was then Towson State University. For some reason, they dropped the state, thinking that maybe that makes it sound more prestigious. So now my youngest daughter attends Towson University, but her dear dad and mom attended Towson State. So basically, that's how I became a Maryland resident. Is I met the woman who became my wife while I was a student at then TSU, and we've been married for 27 years. We have two great kids. Our oldest one went to college in North Carolina. She graduated May last year. She's living down in the Charlotte area, working in the healthcare industry, trying to crack into being a physician's associate. So she's got some more school and good times ahead of her. And our youngest just turned 21 years old. So she is about to start her senior year at Towson. So that's kind of the household. Oh, and I do have two dogs, one of which is sitting next to me here in this room. She is a French bulldog. She is like my office mate. Her name is Lola. If you hear what sounds like some sort of primordial scream coming out of a Jurassic era dinosaur, it is from the French bulldog. She hears things, so hopefully Amazon does not come during this recording and ding, or everybody will get introduced to how ferocious Lola is. So maybe one little fun fact, then I'll stop talking, is I really, really love music, have been, a fan of music ever since I was old enough to, tap a beat. And I have played drums for over, 40 years. And so I have some good stories back, especially in the high school and college eras of grunge and recording and touring and playing gigs and opening for Green Day. And if this MI topic podcast gets incredibly boring, we can pivot to war stories about the band days, but that's awesome. What I am in a nutshell.
That's awesome.
So the only thing that just came to mind was drum battles at annual.
100%. We can 100% arrange. So we will have a band at annual. We can 100% arrange for a second set. So, I think it's called a kit, right?
Oh yeah, that's a kit. Yep.
Well, we can arrange for a second kit on stage with the band, and this is all right. All right, Justin, let's make a note of this.
We're gonna spiral real quick on this.
This is gonna be. This is gonna be.
Just gonna go down the tubes.
This is gonna be. What I forgot why we're even here.
Yeah.
This is gonna be 100. All right, so a couple things. All right, so a lot to unpack, which I appreciate. So. The story as to why you got into how you entered the industry. The funny thing is, that story is not the first time I've heard a similar story to that. Someone working for a bank, working for a credit union, working for a savings and loan, and they happen to see a loan officer walk through the branch, and they're in the old school suit, and who is that? Why are they wearing a suit, right? Was this a Maryland-based bank?
Yeah. I don't know if you know them. That the name no longer exists. Their name at the time was the Columbia Bank. They were since acquired, I think, by Fulton Financial.
Yeah.
But that happened after I left. So they were old school kind of bank, and it was a good place to get started in the business.
I will say I appreciate that you didn't say it was an accident. Because we also hear that.
No, it was a conscious decision that ended up taking me on a journey that I never would have expected. If someone would have asked me then, where would I be at this point in my life and my career, I would not have imagined in a million years to be where I am and to have had the privilege of doing a lot of different things and meeting a ton of different people. And I'm sure we'll get into that because for me, it is very, very much about the people. And, it's just, it makes work really, really fun.
But I think it's interesting, right? So it's like, the mortgage. One thing I love about the mortgage industry, right? It's like it's. I'm not gonna say the one profession, but it's a profession that there's not a specific degree for, right?
Yep.
That no one goes to school or there's to become a mortgage professional, right? Like there's no set path to becoming a mortgage professional. You just happen to, I don't want to say fall into it, or you like you, Peter, you happen to get a job and something catches your eye and you happen to apply for it. For me, it was, I happen to have a friend who says, "Hey, I work for a bank and a mortgage bank, and it's fun and exciting. We're all young, come have fun." And I said, "Okay, why not? Right? I want to have fun." And that's really how it started, right? But there's no educational path that takes you there, right? It's I guess we all kind of sort of fall into it, right? We don't. It's almost like it chooses us. We don't really choose it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's I love it. That's great. And it's also great hearing that was it Towson Tigers, right? Towson Tigers.
That's right. Go Tigers, baby.
Go Tigers. Good lacrosse school. Good lacrosse school.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess the next question really kind of boils down you through your career. You were in mortgage, and you kind of pivoted to the GSEs, and now you're on like that MI side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of taking your different phases throughout your career, right? And MI allows you to do different things, right? And maybe and I think I know the answer, and maybe you've already answered the question, and maybe you've already hinted at the answer, but the MI side allows you to do different things, right? And so you obviously have had a very successful career in the MI side of our industry, and I can tell that you're passionate about it. And just from one, how you talk about it, but two, just talking to people and learning about you from other people. What is it about the MI side of our industry that you love? Is it about connecting? Is it about meeting people? Is it about meeting new people? What is it about being on this side that kind of gives you that additional energy that keeps you going, that kind of fuels you to keep pushing forward in our industry?
Yeah, for sure. Great question. People is definitely part of it. So in sort of 3 words, it's people and problems. I love them both. Love the people. I love building relationships. I love, the MI business because it allows you to build true partnerships with your clients, and that is more than a transaction. I mean, it always comes down to the transaction in terms of, MI is what pays the bills at a loan level, but that is just a small fraction of what we hope to do for our partners in terms of helping them solve problems. And so people and problems are really why I love this side of the business and being in this space. It's super challenging and rewarding to sit across the desk or a coffee shop or wherever it may be with the customer and hear them describe a challenge that they have at work, and not even know that they are sharing it with the intention of me potentially bringing forth a solution. And the solution may have nothing to do with that as mortgage insurance or even a tool that Enact provides. But I really, truly believe that if there's something I can bring to the table to help a partner solve a challenge, a problem, offer them a connection, a resource, that only helps them. And when I see my clients and our customers, do well, I just innately believe that, good things will come back, whether it's, a day from now, a week from now, a year from now. And so, being able to do what I do, I get to meet a lot of people. I get exposed to a lot of problems, and it helps me. It really just keeps me charged every day to meet those new relationships, but forge deeper relationships with people I know, and really share what each of us can do to help the other and solve those problems. And the credit union space is probably the most collaborative space in all of the mortgage industry. So and I, sorry, Peter, if I'm already maybe jumping ahead of where I should be, but in my role, I travel a ton, typically 3 weeks out of every month, and I get to interact with all different types of customers across the spectrum. So IMBs, mega banks, community banks, credit unions, you name it. So I get to see the mortgage world through very different lenses in terms of how each part of the marketplace faces off with ultimately consumers. And what stands out to me most about the credit unions space is two things. The first is its focus on members. So people are not transactions. They're not even customers or clients. They're members. And this is fundamentally different from the way that any other provider in the mortgage space views solving the mortgage for its customer. The second thing I love about credit unions is peer collaboration. So unequivocally, undeniably, there is no other place in the mortgage world where peers do more collaboration together, helping each other, sharing best practices. It's, there's this cliche frenemy, right? You guys have probably heard it. I'm going to say in the credit union space, it's just friends, and it's friends wanting to help each other succeed and share successes, as well as, hey, we were struggling with this thing. This is what we did. Didn't work out as good as we hoped. Maybe I can share my learnings with you so that you, my peer, my friend, don't make maybe the same, mistake, if you will. So the credit union space is just, it's a different vibe when you walk into a shop and it's a credit union versus any other place in the market. So whether it's, a mega credit union, maybe on the West Coast, or just a relatively small credit union, maybe in the Midwest, it feels different literally walking through the door from my perspective. And that has to do with all of the unique benefits of what credit unions bring to the mortgage space.
So, you must certainly, answer, that the next question, why do you love, the credit union movement? And I appreciate you kind of answering that question, but kind of going back to, the MI side. And I kind of want to point out something you said. It's that kind of jumped out in your response to, why do you love being on the MI in that mortgage industry? And one of the big creeds that credit unions have, it's always like, people just helping people, right? And everything that you just said, and why you love being in the MI side, just helping a partner, helping a client, regardless of whether or not it benefits you, is really, it's as though you sat down, you walked into a credit union, you drank that Kool-Aid yourself. So, so kudos to you. Honestly, that exemplifies exactly what the credit union movement is, because regardless of whether or not me helping another credit union down the street benefits me, or me helping a credit union across the country benefits me, we're all in this together, right? And I think that's the essence of the credit union movement, right? Sure. But also, we're in this together, right? But also we realize that our members are people too, right? They have real life problems, just like we have real life problems. And if we can make if someone's life better today, if there's something we can do to make their life better today, let's try, right? And the way you described why you love doing what you do kind of falls into that. So, but again, we don't need you. I don't. Is there anything else you want to expand on? Why you love the credit union movement? Because I think you did a very, very good job kind of answering that question already.
Yeah, no, I hopefully the audience will hear, kind of what I hope to communicate there with the focus on the members is just a game changer, and then the peer collaboration is like no other in the marketplace, and those two things really just differentiate how the credit unions serve the mortgage need that members, borrowers have, and it's just fundamentally obvious to me, as I get to try on different shoes every day, pretty much, in terms of walking in different places and talking to different people. It's just a tangible difference.
And the funny thing is like, I've worked for community banks. I've worked for IMBs. I work for large banks. There's a healthy level of competition with credit unions, right?
Sure.
We put out, in Acuma, we put out, our top 500 list, right? And everyone wants to see how everyone else stacks up, right?
Yeah.
But they always ask, they have no problem calling someone on the list saying, how are you doing this? Like, how are you producing these numbers in this tough market? Like, they have no problem calling each other and asking those questions, right? Whereas,
Sure.
kind of thinking back to, my community bank days or my IMB days, I would never think to call, my competition down the street and ask that question and get a solid answer, right?
Yep.
And if they gave me an answer, I wouldn't believe it.
Smart man.
It's just, I worked for a long time ago. I worked for a DC based IMB, a DC area based IMB. You know them. They once had a joint venture with Wells Fargo.
All right.
Their name is very similar to Good Fortune.
Okay. All right.
And their competition is there's like a university named after their competition, or has a similar name to a university in Fairfax.
All right. I think I can name that tune in 3 notes. I think I got it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Without naming names.
That's right. No.
And they had a very healthy level of competition, especially when it came to their LOS. Almost to the point where they would try to almost sabotage each other. Like they would call and ask each other, like, how are you doing this? How are you problem solving this issue with your LOS? Because they had the same exact LOS. And I'm almost positive they would tell each other misinformation just so the other's LOS would crash.
Nice.
It's like credit unions wouldn't do that, right? Credit unions would actually sit down and try to problem solve whatever issue that popped up. I'm just thinking about it. Like, how many credit unions actually come up with an LOS and actually do their best to make sure that other credit unions can support that LOS together, right? It's
yeah.
So, all right. So, moving on to the next question. This is really I don't call it the $1 million question, right? Because, and this is a question I am often asked, and so I kind of want to put it on you, because you go out there, you said it yourself. You talk to large banks, you talk to, we'll say, banks of all sizes. You talk to IMBs, you talk to credit unions, and so you kind of see like a whole spectrum of different types of lenders.
Yep.
And so you see all shapes and sizes, all makeups. And so I guess here's the $1 million question. As you think about credit unions, and as you think about how credit unions need to, I don't want to say compete. Maybe compete is, maybe I need to rephrase this word, because I felt as though I was corrected the last time I asked this question. But as you think about credit unions, and as we think about credit unions and the need for credit unions to evolve, in your opinion, what do credit unions need to do differently to kind of evolve into like that modern, kind of evolve with that modern mortgage market? What do we need to do to kind of evolve with the modern mortgage market?
Yeah, great question. Whether it's compete or differentiate, whatever word you want to use, right? It basically, it's distinguish yourself from other providers in the space. 2 things, all about, 2 things to remember. Maybe it's because that's all I can remember myself. I would say do anything you can do to kind of break that stereotype of the credit union, right? Make it something other than your father's Buick. If for people out there listening that may understand that reference, for millennials and the like, Google it. Maybe you'll see it. My kids would not know what that reference means.
Don't worry, I don't either.
Well
as the one millennial here, I don't.
Hey, by the way, Buicks are making a comeback.
Yeah.
They are. They're making. I think they're all electric now.
Okay. Maybe Oldsmobile. I'll have to update my cliche reference then, because I don't think those are coming back. My grandmother drove Oldsmobile, and it's just smelled like cigarettes. And anyway, so two things back to hopefully answer your question. To credit unions, from my perspective, what they can do to differentiate themselves in the marketplace. That first thing is just break that stereotype of what the credit union is. There are some incredibly sophisticated, modern, credit unions out there that I have seen in all parts of the country that, the building is different. It looks different. It feels modern. There's nothing credit union about it, from the minute you park in front of the building to the moment you walk through the lobby. Now that's a it's more than just the structure of the building, but the building is oftentimes the physical representation of the culture and the values and the priorities that the organization puts in place. I think the credit union community will appeal to a bigger customer base when the consumer believes that by being a member of a credit union, they are going to get the full breadth of sophisticated products and services and advice and support that a, mega bank or publicly traded institution can give them. So sometimes, sadly, we live in a world where people make decisions based on appearances. Sometimes it's the appearance of the building, it's the logo, it's those surface oriented things, but that's just the start of it. So
Right.
Breaking that stereotype of how the credit, some people, largely unexposed to credit unions, think about the stereotype of kind of not so attractive physical building that still sends a lot of mail, and if you need to execute the form, it has to be via a fax signature, like that. And we see it on the MI side. There are institutions that they're servicers, they have to remit payment and delinquency and all that information, and you would be shocked to know that a material number of institutions of various segments only provide information via fax. It's like, well, we can't unplug the fax machine because we're not going to get Mylar reporting. So it's crazy. But anything. So first, to just anytime you're sort of at a crossroads and you can make that decision of does this support the the cliche stereotype of a credit union, or can we come to a different decision where maybe it positions from the member consumer's perspective that this is a more relevant financial institution? I think that's huge. And the second thing is leveraging the competitive advantage that credit unions have. And what I mean by that is there's a balance sheet. There's, you have members, you don't have customers, you don't have clients, you don't have transactions, you have members. So the better you can serve your member base, you've sort of got first crack at it. If you're doing, a good job of continually positioning the value add and the availability of products and services that are ready for the credit union to provide its membership base, there's tremendous power in that. There are other parts of the mortgage, environment that would be dying to have that, I dare say, captive audience, because I don't think they're captive, but they're there. You have an ongoing relationship with them. It's material advantage. So leveraging that in every possible way is a huge, huge competitive advantage that credit unions bring to the mortgage space relative to other segments of the market. So to unpack it in 2 bullet points is, break the stereotypes whenever you can, and really, really do everything you can to leverage those competitive advantages with your members that you have.
Okay. Awesome. Appreciate that. All right. Last question before we pivot. Just kind of thinking about, other credit unions listening, and again, this is a tough year. But you're an active member of the Acuma community, just again, tough year, but thinking about Acuma and the community, why is it so important for credit unions to kind of almost double down on Acuma and the Acuma community? And why is it so important for really their continued focus on attending, Acuma and really annual, in your opinion?
Yeah, I hopefully tried to reference it in my first, some of my earlier comments about what differentiates.
Besides seeing the drum off.
Yeah, that might be reason to run to a Vegas show rather than. But in all seriousness, the competitive advantages that credit unions have is in many ways built on the strength of the community, and certainly collaboration can happen any number of ways. We're doing it today using remote technology to be, produced in the marketplace with even more remote technology. But and maybe I'm old school, so maybe Justin will answer this question or have a different perspective. But the strongest type of connection happens in person. So, by attending annual, you're going to broaden your peer-to-peer network just, hugely. And then you're going to have that opportunity, whether you're sitting in a breakout session or, bump into somebody that you haven't seen in years, or introduced by a mutual friend to a new person. And that introduction, parlays into a greater opportunity to, collaborate down the line. Certainly you can do some of that stuff virtually, but the spontaneity and the quality of the collaboration that happens, I truly believe happens best in person. And so if you don't attend the annual, you're missing out on a ton of opportunities to, collaborate, learn from, and, develop those relationships that, again, hopefully you can, benefit from down the line. It doesn't even have to be while the annual is taking place.
Okay. I absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it. Well, Peter, it's time to transition to the second segment of our podcast. This is where we do sometimes we play Jeopardy, sometimes we do fun facts. Today, or for the MI mini series, we're just going to stick with dad jokes.
Okay.
Prior to the podcast, I asked you to come prepared with 2 to 3 dad jokes. Hoping you came prepared. I
did.
So here's what we're gonna do. All right. So again, for the podcast, we're doing dad jokes. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna have you say your 2 to 3. So just out of curiosity, do you have 2 or 3? Do you have two or 3?
I do. I've got some like quick one-liners and maybe
Perfect.
One that's a little bit more of a story. So, I'm going to judge the quality of our respective jokes on the depth of Justin's eyeball roll.
The only person who gets an eyeball roll usually is Peter, and it's not because
mine fall flat. Mine tend to fall flat for some strange reason. I just been on a bad streak of bad jokes. So but all right. So let's
sometimes it's those really bad ones that are memorable, and they're just like so bad they become good. It's like that circle somehow moves.
All right. So how many do you have that are one-liners?
I can do like 2 one-liners and then a short story. All
right. So let's stick with 2 each.
Okay.
That sound good? All right. So So Peter, you'll do your 2, Justin, you'll do your 2, and I'll wrap it with my 2. All right.
All right.
So Peter, you go first.
All right. Peter and Justin, did you hear that Sylvester Stallone is on his 3rd marriage?
I did not.
Guess the first one was Rocky and the second one was Rocky 2. All right. Chuckle. Pretty good. All right. Coming out of the gate, maybe too strong on that one. So that could have set the bar too high. Which days are the strongest? Saturday and Sunday. The rest are weekdays.
That's good.
All right. List.
All right. That was on your list?
It was. That was a good one, though. But don't worry, I have more.
Okay.
All right. And so then if we have time for the story one, I will make it quick. But a duck walks into a store and asks the clerk, "Hey, you got any grapes?" And he says, "No, we don't have any grapes." So the next day, the duck comes back and asks the same question. "Hey, you got any grapes?" And the clerk is a little bit more annoyed this time. He says, "No, we don't have grapes." Third day, the duck comes back to the store. "Got any grapes?" The clerk is really agitated at this point. He says, No, we don't have grapes. And if you ask again, the next time you come in here, I'm going to nail your beak to the floor. So next day, duck walks back into the store and says, got any nails? The clerk is confused and says no. And then the duck says, well, then you got any grapes?
That was good.
That was good. All right, Justin, you're up.
What do you call cheese that's not your cheese?
Nacho cheese.
Exactly.
Oh.
It wasn't my cheese.
Good one.
I had to give that one because Peter doesn't like my not mine jokes. Why do mushrooms get invited to all the parties?
They're fungi.
I don't like you today. Because they're such fun guys.
He's like party pooper. He's like the party pooper. Right
He is like, come on, man. All right, I'm giving one more because that's not fair. What's the most terrifying word in nuclear physics?
Leak.
Oops.
All right. I guess my turn. All right. What did the full glass say to the empty glass? You look drunk.
All right.
That's good. That's not bad. That's a good one.
All right. What's a potato's favorite form of transportation? The gravy train.
It's going to go Spudway, but gravy train's better.
All right. Last one. Why do we never see an elephant hiding in a tree?
Because he's in a trunk.
Nope. They're really good at it.
Those are solid.
That was good.
Okay. I think I redeemed myself from last time.
You did. You ruined all mine.
All right, good. Well, that wraps up Dad Joke for this episode. Peter Hurst, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of the Acma's On Point podcast and my mini-series. Really do appreciate it. Enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me. It was a great way to spend a conversation with you guys. So look forward to seeing you guys in Vegas, escaping this heat. Although I don't know if escaping Maryland heat in August, going to Vegas, it helps us escape, but I guess we'll be better prepared for it.
That's right. It's all about the conditioning at this point.
Yeah, we're like right. Olympians.
And Justin, thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you again to Lone Care for sponsoring today's episode. And to all of you, we know your time is valuable. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of Acma's On Point podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, be well, my friends.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time at the Acma On Point podcast. If not already, be sure to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. For more great episodes and information, be sure to visit us online at acma.org. And to get the latest updates, head over to our LinkedIn page.